pretty much.
should we get going on this? What do you think?
Yes, let's start.
Okay.
Let's start. Just so you know, Javi, your voice is a little bit muffled
Okay.
because
Oh
of
my
the
goodness.
thingy. Yeah, but we are ready to start. Okay, cool. Thank
Okay.
everyone for joining another cmBuilder workshop. And today, as you can see, we are Halloween themed, and I was too lazy to get a costume, so I just put these two guys over here in my background, and Javi's over there like full on costume to fill up for me on the shenanigans.
Are you not afraid? Are you not afraid? Is this not scary? Is this scary enough for you? Come on, Pedro. Just
Yeah, so let's jump right into the agenda over here for today. Right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about some things that I've been seeing some of our customers getting into in the platform. So we'll teach you some ways for us to investigate the excavation steps and also linear resources. Then we're going to talk about in-app performance settings in the new training streams that we have that would help like be focused more on the type of the team that you want to train. But the most of the part we're going to spend like on the tips and tricks to talk about like several minor things that might help you guys produce a very, very interesting simulation. Okay. Again, just some housekeeping items over here. Recording will be available in 24 hours. We have a lot of workshops on YouTube, so you can check if you guys are people in the call that are new users, please go and take a quick look on those workshops. You find some interesting tips and tricks as well. And please use the QA or the chat for questions while you're going. Don't wait. You don't need to wait to the end. If there's something that is relevant for what I'm showing right now, Javi is just gonna give me a little shout out, and I'll answer the question right away. Okay. Cool. Okay, so let's start with investigation of excavation and resources, right? So all the things that I'm going to talk about the excavation here today, they are our like quick workarounds with some weird results that you might get from the platform. But keep in mind that we are always collecting these errors and results that are not exactly what you're trying to create, so we can build a better platform. So please let us know if there's anything that you're trying to create and you were not successful, so we can jump in and provide a solution, but also collect that so we can create a better feature in the future. Okay. Awesome. So let's talk about the first one, avoiding duplicates and coplanar geometries. What does that mean? So usually when you're working with a scenario that you're going to create an excavation and you're going to start to replicate that same excavation lift to show different lifts, right? That same excavation shape to show different lifts. You would go with something like this. So I'm going to go over here, my excavation milestone, and I'm going to create an excavation for that project that I usually use. So it's going to be this beauty over here, but I'm going to create an excavation for this whole area, right? So usually on your excavation stage, your building is not showing up on your screen. So you can click to create a cut. And now if you want to use your building as a reference, you can simply click on the imported models over here in the tree to bring that building back, and you can see exactly all the limits of that building, okay? So let me quickly create one excavation rectangle. It's going to be super simple. And when I hit confirm, you're going to see that an excavation was created over here, right? So this excavation will give you access to so sorry, I just noticed that my excavation created like these corners over here. You see that there's a little chamfer, and the reason why is because of our excavation boundary is too small to the cut that I just created. So you can override that whenever this situation happens by going into your excavation settings, clicking on an edit excavation sketch, and then you can increase the size of your boundary. So I'm going to just go and create an offset over here and bring this excavation boundary a little bit bigger. The boundary is supposed to be way bigger than your excavation shape, so it will encompass everything. Okay. One of our future updates that we're going to do is we're going to remove the excavation boundary whatsoever, so you won't need to bother with that anymore in the future. Okay. So a lot of people, when they're doing excavation lifts, what they do is that they create a duplicate of an excavation cut, and then from this duplicate, you can move this second cut over here to the second stage of excavation, right? And then I'm going to go to my second milestone. And then there's no difference in between cut number 1 and cut number 2 because they're literally exact the same thing. But for cut number 2, there's no dirt over there to be removed. So if I go in here and I change what is the anchor of my elevation to be the same as the bottom of the previous cut, I'm going to create now another cut, right? So this type of operation that I created over here right now usually does not create any big issues if you don't do a lot of them. Well, the reason why is because when you start to create duplicates like that, you have an excavation that it has exactly the same shape, and it means that you're going to have coplanar cuts. So those coplanar cuts, they create a lot of triangles in the back end, and that calculation, once you start duplicating and duplicating and duplicating, those coplanar cuts start to overload your performance a little bit, and things start to become a little bit slow, right? So we are already aware about that, and we are working on fixing that. However, as a quick workaround that you can do is that instead of creating a duplicate and moving it down, you can either create a new cut, or you can create a cut that is slightly bigger or slightly smaller than the previous one. So you can create an offset over here, for example, and bring this cut to be slightly bigger than the previous one. So that second cut is not going to have the same face as the previous one. Okay, so this is more when you recreating the same cut several times, several times, several times. If you notice that your performance starts to decrease, it's because of that. So you can use this workaround. Okay. The second thing that I want to talk about is to avoid collinear or points that are too close to each other. And the reason why is because whenever you create an excavation shape like this, so let me go back to the first one. So whenever you create an excavation shape like this sketch over here, it's what we are using to create the shape, right? However, if you do create points that are too close to each other, you might create some weird calculations on this corner, and this might create like a problem. Right now, it didn't create any problem, but if I slope my walls right now, you're gonna notice that in here, I have two like more triangles being generated. And over here, there's a B wall, but also there's a C wall over here. So these are coplanar walls that you are working on. And you, because we created those 2 points too close to each other, there is a new wall over here being computed. So when you start creating your slopes, this might create a broken geometry or something that you're not expecting, right? So to avoid that, you can simply go over here in your edit sketch and then look for the location where you have those points, and then you can delete those, okay? Also, we suggest not having coplanar, collinear points like this one, just so you will avoid also having that same wall divided in two. So now you have to kind of like work with both walls to remove the sloping and so on and so forth. Okay, just so quick ways for you to have a cleaner sketch to work with. Cool. So, um, in terms of like investigation as well, a good way to do it is to check the excavation boundary in partial steps. So what I did over here at the beginning is that when I created that excavation, my excavation boundary that was created automatically created those chamfers. So I knew that that was a boundary problem. So basically what you need to go to do is to go into the excavation plan, click on edit excavation settings, go in edit sketch, and then you can increase the boundary. Sometimes you're going to create some geometries that are very complex, and you're going to placing points without noticing and things like that. And you might create an excavation boundary that will have a point that is like on the outside of your terrain. So when that happens, this is going to be the result. This can show up without you noticing because of the excavate of the shapes and the geometry that you created. And you will see this kind of like broken geometry, right? So to fix that, it's super easy. Go into the boundary surface and make sure that every point of that boundary surface is inside your map. Usually what I do is I just make the boundary like very big because I don't want to see and know where to worry with that whatsoever. Cool. So this is a quick way for you to uh, kind of like investigate what might be causing a geometry to look a little bit weird. But also there is another thing that I'm not sure if like everyone knows about this, but basically when you have an excavation milestone like this one, where you have like several steps, and let's say that I created something over here that my geometry was broken, I could simply create over here and see all the intermediate steps of that excavation, right? So just a reminder that the excavation tool works on a Boolean operation. Basically, the order in which you create those excavation steps will affect the final result, and you can change the order by simply dragging these elements up and down. Okay, and to see what is the excavation result up to a certain point, you can click on these bubbles over here to visualize the intermediate steps of your excavation. So I created like an example over here that shows a broken geometry, right? I created something very, very weird. And then if I wanted to debug this, I would go into my excavation, go into excavation plan, and I can see over here my steps, but I know that the problem is happening on my milestone number 2. So when I flip to milestone number 2, I'm going to see that broken geometry. I can click on these buttons over here to see what is the shape that is creating that problem. So if I go over here and click on cut 1, I notice now that the shape that is creating the problem is this one. So then I'm just going to go inside, and then I'm going to debug what's going on over here. And this really looks like a problem of intersecting slopes. So when you have like a geometry that creates several intersecting slopes, this might be the case. One way to figure out if the slopes are the problem is just to turn them on. And then you can see, okay, if my geometry that was created over here does not have any problems or any broken shapes, it means that the slopes are the problem. So you can just go in and start deactivating some of these, so you can visualize which slope is causing your problem. Cool, because every time that you deactivate these slopes, you're gonna get like a partial result of that geometry. So starting doing this, and you see that everything is a little bit crazy. And now it looks like this K over here is the one that is creating the problem, right? So this is just a quick way for you to debug the geometry that has been created inside the platform. Cool. And sometimes you are going to be working with ramps and things like that, and you want to create more and more ramps. And a ramp is also a Boolean operation. So if I add a ramp over here on my lift 1, and then I want that ramp to be on my lift 2 on my second stage, because I created a cut on the second stage that overlaps with the ramp, if I go to the second stage, that ramp is gone, right? Because my second cut is removing the ramp. So if you want to have a ramp that is located on a single spot throughout the whole excavation steps without having to add the ramp like several times, you can go over here in our resource and equipment, and there is a ramp resource that you can put. Is a dirt ramp, and then this guy you can put in there, and this is gonna be your ramp that's going to stay there for the whole time, just because they are not governed, or like this ramp is not controlled by the excavation operation. So I could simply go in here and adjust this ramp based on geometry of my cut, and then I will make this ramp show up on the first milestone, and I will remove this ramp on the last milestone of my excavation, for example, right? So if I do that, now I have a ramp going on over here. Oops, let me just make this ramp position constant, and also all of these are constant, right? So now if I go back, I can completely delete the first ramp that I created, and this one is going to stay there as throughout my whole excavation steps. Cool. So this is a little quick way for you to create a fixed ramp and not worry about that in the operations.
Hey, Joe, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Some of what you just did there might be useful for some of the users here. So you're a master Jedi at this stuff. So can you just show how you dropped in that ramp and then made it snap to the face?
Oh, yeah,
kind of
for sure.
adjusted that. You kind of did that very quickly, but I
Sorry
think some
about that.
people might
Yeah.
find that useful.
Cool, for sure. So our ramp, we are working on a way to have a curved ramp as well. So like this is gonna be a little bit different. You'll be able to curve it. We're still testing that, but let's see how it goes. Okay, so if I go over here, put in a ramp and click on to put a dirt ramp, you see that I just place it somewhere over here in our site. And this ramp has this little face over here. And then we created that space so you could use it to click on the snap function. And then you can say, I want this face to snap to this wall over here. So that if you flip it, like the ramp is going to be facing the other way. Basically, you just need to rotate and then hold shift so you can rotate it back to what it was before. And there you go. Now you have your ramp snap to that face. Cool. Cool. Awesome. So let's go to the next investigation that's more related to the linear resources. So if I wanted to create a fence line over here on this project for this whole block, I can go in, put in my fence, and I'm gonna quickly create a construction fence over here. And can put it in as a rectangle so I can create a big one right away. So the reason why I want to talk about the fence is that sometimes people do not notice that you don't need exactly to place in a point for every single like segment. You can do less points for a fence, makes the fence work better because the fence has a mechanism where you have the allow overlap, right? So the allow overlap, how it works is that we take each of these segments of your sketch. Let me change this way. We each line of your sketch, and we start the object from the pattern of the object from one point and also from the other point, and we overlap them in the middle, right? So you have a nice and clean overlap like this. However, if you start adding like more points to this, you're going to see that I'm going to have overlaps in every one of those segments. And if I try to put in like a gate right now within a fence that has a lot of points, this might create some like weird results because the gate is replacing the panels for just one of those lines. This is already a second line, so the gate is cannot replace the panels for that next line, right? So the idea is that you would keep the gate within one single line on your sketch to have it like a cleaner view and stuff like that. Cool. So best practices in terms of creating these fences is simply not have these collinear points. So you can have like a cleaner view for that. Okay. So yeah, so reducing the points and avoiding collinear and points that are too close to each other, just like the excavation, is a good way. And something that I've also noticed that a lot of people don't do, and I will be like an interesting thing to touch base on, is that when you're putting like arrows on your site, a lot of people don't notice that we have like further adjustments to these patterns, right? So now these arrows are all touching each other over here. So this propagation mode, we are going to change this with UI in our upcoming updates. But basically for arrows and things that you want to place that are on the ground like this, let's say cones or anything related to traffic controls, one of the good practices is to deactivate the allow overlap so you won't have like arrows in the middle that has a different spacing, and also add a spacing for them over here. So if you put in a spacing, you can have like a cleaner look, and you can even go further by adjusting the shape of the arrows and making the length change, right? So if you increase the length, you're going to have like a pattern created with like arrows that are super big. But if you want to create something that is cleaner like that, you can make a very small length and have like more repetition of those triangles. Cool. Thanks, Ben. There you go. You just learned something new today. Okay, cool. So this is it about investigation and excavation resources. Now let's go to talk about some in-app performance settings. Again, this is something that a lot of your customers of you already know, but I wanted to just touch base on this because I've seen some users recently not aware about this settings, right? So I'm going to talk only about the stuff that is related to the application itself, things that you can do while you're working in the app. And we have a whole support page over here that is related to the improving the performance of your site, right? So this is a very important thing for you to do whenever you start using cmBuilder. You're bringing in someone new. This has to be done for every computer, basically. So we have a whole page over here talking about enhancing the performance, but there's a specific one that's called Edit Browser GPU Settings, and this is related to how you're gonna go into your Windows menu and connect the graphics settings of your Windows with your browser that you use. Okay. Not going to go into much detail about this one, just so you know that there are pages over here in our support that will help you with that. But in terms of in-app performance settings that I want to talk about, is the first one is our app performance tracker. A lot of you already know about this already, but basically when you go into tools and click on app performance, this is going to show you a dashboard talking about the performance of your scenario. And if there's anything wrong in here, there's going to be a little exclamation mark. One thing that is also interesting to check, if you know that you have a graphics card and you want to use that graphics card, you can expand this and you can see if the dedicated graphics card that you have is showing up over here. If that, even if you have it and it's not showing in here, it means that the cmBuilder is not using your graphics card. So it can be about for like several different reasons, and that's why we have this page over here to help you go through those reasons. Okay. So this is one thing in the app that will help you with the performance. The second thing is to take a look at the graphics settings that we have over here. So if you go into settings and then you click on graphics, we have like a lot of things related to how accurate your graphics is in the performance that you're going to have. So we suggest that you use best performance. If you're having performance issue, you can select this item over here, best performance, and work with while editing and creating your simulation with the best performance turned on. And then whenever you're ready to do your output, to create your video, or to share your link, you can change this to best quality, and then the quality of your site is going to increase, where you can see it right over here, like the comparison, right? So these are little serrated lines, and then when I change to best quality, the lines are sharper and the shadows are better, and so on and so forth. Cool.
Pedro.
Yep.
Two things. Can you go back and show how you can get to the help section and the user guide and those links? And then if you don't mind, for Adam, just drop the link directly in there. But we'll also show you how to get to that. I know you have the page saved there.
Yeah, you have two options. One is to click on the question mark and go into our user guide, and this will give you access to that FAQ. And troubleshooting is where you're going to find the enhanced performance, edit browser GPU settings. You can read the instructions from here directly, or you can click on this and open in a new tab. This will open a bigger page for you to check on. Right, so this is one way, or you can simply open the support center altogether, and then from here you can search graphics, and then you're gonna get graphic. You're gonna get some what is it? Performance. Actually, I was typing in graphic. So yeah, so if you put in like performance in here, you're gonna get like the enhanced performance pages.
Can you just drop that link in there for Adam?
Yeah, for sure.
If you don't mind.
I'm gonna put in like the FAQ directly over here.
Perfect. And then another thing, question from Ben. So I'm pretty sure this is how it works, but can you verify? So right before you share a link or send, record your video, so our recommendation is to set the graphics and the settings to where you want it, like to make it look nice.
Yeah.
And then every setting you have in place, the mouse settings, everything will be propagated into the share link, correct, Pedro?
Yes. You have to do this before you create the share link. So when you create the share link, it will stay married with the configurations that you created at the moment, that you had at the moment.
So to clarify, if you've changed the simulation in any way, like the sequence or something, that will be updated automatically in the share link. But the settings itself that you've sent that share link with, the graphics and even the way your mouse is configured and stuff like that, because there's a couple options, it will propagate to the share link. So just keep an eye on that.
Exactamundo. There you go. Okay, cool. So these are two other things that I want to talk about today. And like the first one is related more focus on older scenarios. So if you have a project that has been done, has been in cmBuilder for a while, we have recently created a new performance update for the excavations. So if you click on this button over here, that's going to expand the site navigation. You can open the scenario settings. I'm just opening over here in a new tab, and you can see over here that I have these two things. So it's always good for you to turn these two on, because then you're gonna work with the best performance and the best accuracy for the topography possible. And this is a scenario settings. Okay, so for all the new scenarios that you're creating as of today, these are all already going to be turned on. But if you're still working with like legacy projects and things like that, just make sure that you turn these two on. Okay. And this is one of the reasons why I got that little chamfer on the excavation, because I didn't have this second settings over here turned on. Cool. And for also some users that been around the platform for a while, sometimes you don't think about checking the experimental features that much, but if you go into user preferences over here and scroll all the way down, we have this new experimental feature that's called the parametric resource instancing. It's just like a way to improve the performance of like objects that repeat a lot in cmBuilder. And if you turn it on, the performance will increase whenever you have like too many objects from our library that are controlled by a line, and then the performance will increase with this thing turned on. For every new user, this is already, these experimental features will always show turned on. But for legacy users, people that have been around for a while, you should always turn those settings on. Cool.
Yeah, so things to look for. So just kind of, this is more of a technical workshop. Is like things to look for if you've used a polyline to generate a bunch of cars in a parking lot, right? So you have a whole whack of cars there. Previous to having that set, the system is like rendering each of those cars and loading those cars in the memory, each one of them. And this automation will just basically like take one of them and then instance it. So long and short of it is it'll be much better performance and run faster, load faster, and just work better. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, we've seen some users like really kind of like using this linear pattern a lot, and that might bug the performance. When you turn that on, that the performance is great. Cool. Eventually, like all the things that goes into experimental features, we push them in, and then users would test it, and then once it's good to go, like we will bring it to the original platform, and you won't need to worry about turning these on as you go. Okay, cool. So to the next step, the new training streams. So this is more for if you want to bring in more people to the software. Just keep in mind that it's always good to invite and let your teammates know that cmBuilder is available at your company. And also we have a limited users, so anyone in the company can use it, from the VDC team to the supervisors to the superintendents and so on. So we kind of created these two training streams, one that is more focused on viewing and basic modeling capabilities, and one that is more focused on the standard training that we covered like the whole aspect of cmBuilder. And so you can choose what you want, and everything can be tailored as well. So we can like create a proper training just for your team. And we don't usually touch base on the advanced features on the standard training, but we can always just go and have sessions that are very dedicated to talk about those and like understand them a little bit more in depth. Okay.
This is something I'm quite passionate about, and making sure that we continue to reiterate this. So maybe can you go back to the product? So there's two ways. There's usually what I describe as like two ways of getting support. Like one is like if you go up to the help section, you want to book a meeting with the team or book a series of meetings for training, like Pedro just said, you can use that book support session right there. But often, like as it happens with a lot of the folks that are on this call, like you might just have quick questions, right? You don't need a whole call for this. You just have a quick question. Hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? Just hit the chat, right? So that's where the chat comes in handy. So just if you haven't used the chat yet, just pop it in there. It'll connect you to a team member on our side, and we'll get you an answer quickly, because maybe the question's not enough to have a whole call for. So feel free to use that. Again, all this is unlimited, and we're quite passionate about trying to give you great service. So please, don't be shy to reach out to us.
There you go. Okay, cool. So let's jump right in the tips and tricks. that can enhance like a little bit of the functionalities that we have today. So the first one that I want to talk about is the demolitions using surroundings import. So these surroundings imports can come from a drone scan, from any other types of services that you use that you import that a better shape for the surroundings for your scenario. But sometimes, usually what we suggest is that you open those elements and those scans first on Blender because you want to see them, and then there's instructions on our webpage, on our user guide on how to do that. But basically, what I'm trying to say here today is that let's say that I'm going to work with this building over here. I'm going to demolish this building, and then I'm going to go and build something else new at this area. Right, so you can still bring in the surroundings, and in Blender or any other software like Recap or something like that, we suggest that you take the building that you're going to demolish and you remove it from the main model. So you can do something like this in Blender where you can separate the selection of elements that you have. And now, you can see over here in my tree structure that I have two different elements, right? So I just created an opening on my site to show the stage of that area of that model once you demolish that part. So this can increase the graphics and the visual impact of your simulation by a lot. And if you want to go even further, there are some tools in Blender and other softwares where you can slice this into in like smaller pieces so you can show the staging of your demolition as well. So this is something that we usually suggest for customers that are working with like more detailed demolition steps and so on and so forth. Cool. So always know that like you can do some pre-processing of the model to slice them better before bringing them into cmBuilder. This is something that we are actually going to add to the platform quite soon, where we're going to be able to go and draw like a line and then split an imported model and imported mesh according to that line. So this, what we would you still need to do this as a pre-processing. It will be added to the platform in the future. So how do you image it?
Yeah, sorry, just one thing on that. Last week we shipped what's called remove, so you can like remove or remove elements from the imported models. Doesn't help in a mesh like this because it's all together. And like Pedro said, we coming soon is the split mesh, so pour breaks and stuff like that. I'll pop my most recent recent KFF Key Feature Friday where I showed how that works. I'll put that in the chat there too. Pedro, just a question came in. I don't know if it works in your flow, but one asked about how to upgrade like the map quality. Like let's say you have enter an address in the map and it's out of date. Can you walk a little bit through at some point how to upgrade that, say from Google Earth or something like that, or Google Maps, and how to bring in a new image, drape it on the map, and make it work with that? So
yeah, for sure.
Point, if you can work
so I will touch base on that on the end of the workshop. It's in the agenda. But I can jump right into that right now. So if I go over here, we have a user guide instructions that you can to help you upgrade that surrounding buildings with the imported satellite models. So I'm gonna put this link over here on the chat, and you guys can take a quick look at it. But basically, the idea is that
one step ahead of you. Sorry about that. I was trying to take your lead there, but yeah, it's okay. We're talking.
Yeah, but like this is an interesting way of doing it. This is the first this instructions set over here is just to help you bring in a surrounding model for your project. However, if you want to increase the quality of the terrain and like to get better survey data or things like that, we do have another set of instructions that, can you find that, Javi? The set of instruction for custom terrain, where I think it's over here, project setup.
Terrain. I think it's edit terrain.
Adjust map terrain.
Map.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there it is.
Cool. Yeah, so this one is to help you bring in like better references for your terrain, and those references can come from a drone scan, can come from a survey data, can come from control lines and whatnot. But basically, it's a specific tool to help you create terrains using either an imported mesh that represents your terrain or a set of points that you can create and adjust the terrain along with that. Cool. Okay. So let's go back into the track over here. So demolition using surrounding parts, we covered that. The second thing that I want to talk about is the walking pedestrians. So we have new animation templates available on our user guide. I also like this page over here is like an interesting one. So towards the end of this page over here, that explains how you can animate objects to follow a specific path, something that we covered in our previous workshops. I added like this resource template that is simple and very focused on making an object move on the path. But in the end over here, I added like other templates that is for a walking man and a woman with a stroller. Basically, if you go and focus on this view over here, where is it? Where is it? There you go. You can create these type of animations, right? So you have like a person walking on the side and things like that. You show pedestrian paths and so on and so forth. Cool. So just one thing to notice about that, there are other things that you can adjust on this, and it's something that I covered on like also on the previous workshop. That basically the visual programming, you can adjust the speed factor and so on over here. But just to let you know that we are actually revamping this, and pretty soon I'm gonna put in a template over here on our user guide page that's gonna help you do that for like every single object, right? So instead of like having to go into the user guide, you will have like a certain set of controls over here that you can adjust, like the speed. You can adjust that if the truck is going on reverse, if it's going forward and things like that. So that's scenes for the next chapter.
we don't want to scare you. If you saw that, some of the visual programmers on this call might get excited and go nuts. But the idea that complex thing you saw there, we're just going to make it really simple. You just drop it in there and you use sliders and simplified UI just to like adjust it. It's just the idea here is to make a kind of a multi-purpose template that can work for various resources, right? So trucks and people driving and
I think
train
I have
swings
a
and stuff like that.
over here that has a truck already following a line with that model. So this is what I'm talking about. So basically this truck guy over here is going through that line. So our visual programming now has this type of things over here where you can adjust the speed, right? So if I increase this, the speed is going to go faster, and I can also make it go in reverse, right? So there was some users that requested to that reverse kind of like animation to show like trucks coming backing up to a specific location, things like that. Cool. So this is going to be available soon. I'm still working on that visual graph template, but I will add that to the same page that I pasted over here for you guys. Okay.
A question came in from Quentin. So Quentin, you guys are on Enterprise. So anyone on Premium Enterprise has what we call textures on zones. Can you just show texture? The question was, is there a plan to allow a user to upload a JPEG or their own textures? I don't know actually if we'll support that in the future, but in the short term, what you can do is you can apply textures to zones from a given palette. Maybe we can just show this. And if you have, Quentin, of other textures you would like to add, you can just request them, and we'll look at adding them to there. We've added, like, I think we started with 5 or 6, and we're going to continuously add them. So if you could let us know what textures you would like to add, or even send us an example that you were going to use, we can throw it in the library that's just available there for you, because there's some stuff we have to do to make sure the resolution looks good and stuff like that. So this is on, so basically textures on zones can be used to do lots of things if you get creative with this, but yeah, you can just apply some textures here. So basically sketch the zone, or define what it is that you want, and then you just choose the texture. What do you want to show? What do we have as options so far?
We have grass, asphalt, dirt, concrete, and sand.
Okay, so if you have another texture that you would prefer to use, please just you can request it, or you can send it over to us and we'll look at adding that. And then textures on models is something that we have looked at, and it's in our roadmap. I don't know the timing of this, but applying textures to imported BIM models that has a bit more complexity to that. So it's a problem that we're still working through the R&D on. But as of right now, this is what's available for anyone in Premium and Enterprise.
Cool. Awesome. So let's go to the next step over here. The next one is temporary grouping. So this is an interesting thing. And again, it's just like a trick that you can do today, but we will eventually add this to the platform as a custom attribute. But one thing that I kind of came up with a customer the other day is that you can group elements temporarily by selecting an area or a part of groups and assigning them to a placeholder milestone. So for example, let's say that I'm working with this scenario over here and I want to work with my model. I can simply come in here, turn on my model, temporary hide and temporary show, the whole thing. So basically, I can work with a placeholder milestone. Actually, let me do this with a completely new project because I think it's going to be easier. Just give me one quick second. So create a new scenario. I apologize for not cleaning this up beforehand. So if I go in and bring my model, so let me bring like a structural model. Okay, so there you go. So if I want to work with just the parkade first and then change, like separate this in like east wing and a west wing, for example, just so I can focus on those elements. Usually for the sequencing for very complex models that are very like horizontal, where you have like a huge chunk of parts that belongs in the zone and you're going to focus on that and then you're going to move on to another zone, you can create these placeholder milestones. So I'm going to create a placeholder milestone over here for parking levels, placeholder, and then I'm going to create a east wing placeholder and a west wing placeholder. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to take all of the parts that are in my parking levels, and I'm going to put these guys to show on the place of the parking levels. So this is just a way for you to take these elements out and group them on a single like view, right? So now I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to put them into my east wing, and then all the rest, I'm going to put them on my west wing. So now I have milestones where like these elements are going to show up, right? So in the way for you to work with just those elements is for you to turn on your sequencing view and deactivate everything else and keep only current. So now you have like a view that shows those groupings. And then from here, you can like, okay, I want to work with just the columns on this area, for example. So you can go into your model tree, going to start in IFC structure, and then this is going to expand my tree and it's going to show my tree in a way that I can see only models that are only parts that are assigned to that group. So I kind of created a personalized tree where I'm grouping elements and then I can work with them separately, right? So I can go into my structure model and select columns over here. And I'm now making sure that I'm only selecting columns from the west wing, for example, right? So then I can go and assign them to their proper milestones. So just a way for you to create a placeholder grouping and then work with that group of elements. And then from that group, you can like assign different things, right? So this came up from a call where like there was a horizontal project that was very, very, very like big and large in terms of like footprint. And it was a steel structure model. So the user wanted to work with just like specific defined areas first. So we created those placeholder milestones. So area A, so let's filter everything with by area A and then work with along with that, along those lines. Cool. Okay. Let's go to the next tips and tricks. So quick landscape view. So a lot of projects, you're going to have like a landscape drawing available on your drawing package. And if you don't want to spend the time by creating every tree and every zone for the sidewalks, for the curbs and things like that, what is a dirt, what is like I don't know, different types of vegetation, you can create a landscape drawing. You can bring in a landscape drawing, project them in the end on your last milestone. So for example, if I go into my last milestone over here, I have now this drawing that we created just to show that landscaping. from this point onwards, you can add the trees if you want, and so on and so forth. Just to reiterate that we do have a lot of vegetation available in our resources library, right? So if you go into site conditions and click on vegetation, there are a lot of trees over here that you can use, and I could simply drag and drop these guys to create the 3D shapes for them. But let's say that you don't want to work with that, you want to do something that's simple and easy and fast. You can simply bring in the landscape drawing, crop that to your liking, and make that drawing show only on the last milestone, for example. So this is a landscape drawing that you can simply go over here and put into the last milestone. So when you go flip back and forth, you're gonna see that part of the landscape showing. Cool. Especially for horizontal and aerial landscaping like grass, concrete paving, and so on and so forth, you can create like very, very interesting looks of this area. Okay, and the last one, since we already talked about the satellite and model import, is creating shell volumes, right? So let's say that you're working with a building just like this one, and it's a massing or something like that, that you want to create a parapet or a similar object like walls or things like that, right? So you can either use a drawing as a reference, but in this case over here, I'm going to use my model, and I'm going to create a parapet that is going to like replace this yellow shape over here. So basically, I'm going to go to buildings, click on massing, do a simple massing, add a volume, and then from that volume, I'm going to start my sketch over here in the ground. And because it's a parapet, I'm going to make my sketch be anchored at this level. So I'm going to click on this button over here and say follow that that elevation, right? So now my sketch is positioned on top of that level. Sorry, it's selected the wrong point. There you go. So now that my sketch is positioned on top of that level, what I can do is I'm going to project the shape over here, and my parapet is not going to be exactly this shape. So I'm going to delete the lines that I don't want, these ones, and I'm going to create an offset, keeping the original line, right? Select my line that is in there, the slab edge line, and then I'm going to put in over here that I want this to be offset to go inwards by like 25 centimeters. So when I hit enter, a new line is created over here, and then I just need to finish by connecting the ends of those lines. So let me connect this and connect this. And now I have a massing that was created over there, showing a parapet for that building. Cool. So you can quickly do things like that and adjust them as you want, and then you can just go ahead and make that parapet height to be like whatever you prefer, like 2 meters, for example. So this is a quick way for you to create walls, parapets, and also shell-like buildings. Let's say that you're going to work with a interior renovation or something like that, and you want to show, you don't have a 3D model, but you don't want also to create like a shape of a building that is solid. You want to create a shape that is open and you can see inside, right? So that's a very quick way to do that using the new offset tool. Basically, if I come up with like a new building over here, I can go to my simple massing, add the shape of that building, and I'm going to create like a very weird shape. And I created my line, but instead of closing this, I'm going to just go ahead and do the offset with keeping the original line, then put in the thickness of my wall over here, and then I have now a wall to work with. So because you can only have one closed polygon at a time, you cannot create like a closed wall. Where is my massing? I think I canceled it by mistake. So you can only create like won't be able to create a closed shell, but you can create a part of the shell and then create another wall on the other side to show that. There you go. Here's my massing. Cool. So let's say that I want to create another wall over here to finish this one. I can go and edit my sketch. I want to make this wall over here snap to this line. So I'm going to select that line, click on the snapping function. Well, actually, it has to be parallel. parallel to this other line. So now they are sharing the same face. And I just need to create a new massing that will close that end part. Okay, so let's snap this massing to this. I wonder if I can select the small one. Okay, so that's basically it, right? Anything to add to this, Javi?
Can think of. Is this everything you had in the agenda? Are there any questions or for the Q&A, if there's anyone working on something right now that they have a question about and would like us to dive into it, could you pop it in the Q&A or the chat? All right, the chat's just easier.
There you go. Cool. Yeah, so this is a quick way for you to create that so you can work with your drawing to show the walls where they are. So you just draw one line, do an offset, close the ends, and then you have your wall already created over there that you can create a timeline for it and like adjust it the way that you prefer. Cool.
I have one for you that would be helpful for most people here. So just a reminder, it may get turned off. Maybe you want to talk about just when you're uploading an IFC model, the ability to filter when you're uploading. Yeah. It's just something that so basically while you set that up and tee that up, if you have like a generic IFC file, you can show. When you go to upload a new model, sometimes you have a bunch of stuff so I guess I'll take a step back. We're trying to support IFCs created from multiple authoring tools, right? Revit, SketchUp, Tekla, etc. And every software authoring tool has slightly different ways they create that data, right? So we're trying to support them all, but there's certain elements like that show up, like spaces. What's a good one, Pedro? Of things that like Revit spaces or things that are like typically not building element proxies, like things like this, right? So, anyways, if you want to talk through just like how you can, what the use case would be for this, and what would be the benefit.
Yeah, for sure. So we keep like reiterating that once you import like a model inside cmBuilder, you want to make sure that model is clean and is focused on what you want to show in your simulation. So usually for logistics planning, you just need your structure and you just need your envelope to create a very good logistics planning that will show the steps of construction, right? So if you do have an IFC file and you don't have, you want to bring them into cmBuilder right away, you can simply just like drag that IFC file into here. And once you do that, you're going to get this page over here that will give you the converting kind of like options, right? So let me try this again. I'm working too fast today. Yeah, so this is going to give you this option where you can select the IFC classes that you don't want to import, right? So you can filter this for what you want, and we are going to create a kind of like a default selection over here for things that we suggest that you already like keep them out. Like for example, you can remove your furniture elements, right? So you can remove all of these flow IFC classes that usually are related to a specific kind of like MEP objects. And you can filter all of these elements. And when you confirm the upload, basically we are going to upload that same model, but without all of those parts. Cool. Let's say that by mistake, you did that. You imported a model with those parts and you want to make sure that you are not you won't use them on your view. So basically you can take this model, the new model that I imported over here, and I can select the parts that I don't want, both on my 3D view. Let's say this one, for example. I can select this part and say edit model element. Then I can click on this new function over here in the bottom, remove model element. This will remove the geometry from this scenario completely, right? So when I update this, it will take like a couple seconds over here, and the view will refresh, and now we have a model version that does not have that part. This is different from disconnecting something from the timeline. When you disconnect an object from the timeline, for example, over here, this object will still be in your scenario, but it will be showing as hidden by default. So I can always, if I select the whole model, you can see that that part is still here. But now that I deleted that other part, you see that my parapet, sorry, not my parapet, but this hanging part that I removed is not showing in my model at all, right? It means that it was removed from my view. So you can, for example, let's say that you want to remove a bunch of parts that are in the same IFC class from this model. You can go into your IFC structure 3 view. And then in here, you can just select, let's say, I don't know, footings, right? So everything that is a footing or everything that is a column, you can select those parts. And then from those parts, you can go in here and then you can remove these elements from your 3D model by clicking on this button. So a quick way for you to kind of like filter your model even further if you forgot to do that IFC class filtering in the beginning. But also if you notice that there are parts that you don't want to use anymore, like, and so on and so forth.
Just right. You can always bring them back too. So it's
Yeah.
not like deleted forever. So you can actually
Yeah,
restore them. So the benefit of this is simplifying the sequencing and the construction simulation you want to do, and also performance, right? So if you have a big model, like I know on the steel fabrication side, if you have a whole bunch of fasteners, a whole bunch of stuff that is like you're not necessarily going to simulate every single fastener being installed on a building. Like these things they add a lot of triangles, they add a lot of load times to the site. So it's good to try to remove those if you can. Or if you're going to show a micro simulation of installing members and like doing fasteners, maybe doing it for one floor or something like that, right? Or like more of a micro simulation with not the entire building loaded at once, because it's just you're just using up a lot of computation to show a smaller specific area. So just keep that in mind of just like everything's kind of managing the outcome that you're looking for, but obviously like optimizing for performance and making sure you get a good outcome out of it.
Yeah, and also this paired up with this splitting geometry feature that we're gonna develop soon. It's already being developed, so we're gonna upload to the platform soon. Is you will be able to really like customize the model in the way that you prefer, and so on and so forth.
We don't want to send you to other softwares to be able to do stuff in cmBuilder. That's our number one goal. So we want you to be able to just upload stuff into cmBuilder and then split, delete, remove, add new attributes is something that's also coming from IFC. We're adding ability that's coming soon to add your own attributes. And maybe just for the last 2 minutes, do you want to show the roadmap quickly? So
yes, that was what I was going to do. So if you click over here on the question mark and go into support center, make sure that you're logged in when you open the support center. So if you have like a sign in function over here, just click on that. It will log in automatically. But basically, you can just scroll down. You're going to see this roadmap and release notes. So when you click on that, there's this link for the roadmap, and open that. So you'll be able to visualize our roadmap in here. So the roadmap has 3 different tabs: plan, under consideration, and launched. So plan are the things that we are working at the moment, and like the soon to be deployed, and the ones that are being planned to be deployed right after. Launched, you'll be able to see all the new launches and the things that we did recently. If you're like a experienced user in cmBuilder and it's been a while that you've seen the platform, you're just coming back, it's a good way to keep updated about the new tools and that we have available. But also one thing that I would like to talk about is that you can click on these options and you can vote on them. So you can say, for example, geolocation for objects. This is very important. This is critical for me. You can type in over here why you need this. And we request that you put in your email. It's just because we want to make sure that we will inform you directly once these tools are deployed. Cool.
Yeah, so Autodesk Construction Cloud, as you can see there, that's hopefully going live next week or the week after, which is the ability to sync, like load models from ACC into cmBuilder automatically and sync back and forth, which is really, or sync to new versions, I should say.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's hosting models in ACC, it'll be really nice. So we're up at the hour, last minute here for questions. If anyone want to pop, yeah, we can post the link. It's in the user guide there. But if you want, do you want to pop that link? Or even that article right there.
Yeah, that's the article. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, you can go in there and drop in your stuff that you'd like. Anything else? Any last questions before we wrap this? Thank you, Adam. Thanks for joining. And just so you know, we're always available, and we're very passionate about that. If you have any questions, or if we can help you at all in any of your projects, you want to do updated training, please just reach out to us, and we'll go from there. And happy Halloween to everyone.
In the end of these sessions, I always feels like that guy in the Oscars where like the guy starts to cue the music in, so like like the guy stops doing the speech, like
yeah, exactly.
Raise up the music.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, exactly. Nice. Okay, I'm not a huge Teletubby guy, so I'm getting an education here. I guess this is Poe, which I've been educated to. So it looks like me. When I head home. Thanks, Calvin. Thanks, Frank. Have a great rest of your day, and happy Halloween to everyone.
Happy Halloween.
Thanks, Ben.